All right, guys, it's time to start the new series where I take a look at your submitted mock drafts, break them down, and go over them. I mentioned this new series was coming, the last mock draft that I made, and the way you submit your mock drafts to me to go over them in a video is simply joining my Packers custom Discord. The link is down in the description. It's absolutely free to do. You'll see a mock draft channel where you can post your mock drafts, and maybe one of yours will get featured in a video. There's also a bunch of other Packers fans on that Discord, so if you simply just like talking ball, that's the place to go. I figured why not add a series where we mock the mock? Whether it's a fan's mock draft or another website's mock draft, we can take a look into what other mock drafts are saying about the Green Bay Packers. So if this sort of thing does interest you, I'd really suggest going down and clicking the subscribe button. It's absolutely free to do. It helps support the channel a ton, really helps out with the whole YouTube algorithm. Thank you guys. So now back into the video, let's go over the first mock draft that was posted by one of you guys in the Discord, and that was by user Lombardi Leap. Let's go over the picks really quickly. At number 1, or the 23rd overall pick, he has Azariah Thomas, cornerback from Florida State. At pick 54, he has wide receiver Jaden Higgins. At pick 87, he has defensive lineman from Maryland, Jordan Phillips. At pick 123, he has Anthony Belton, a tackle from NC State. At pick 160, he has Quincy Riley, corner from Louisville. At 200, Seth McLaughlin, interior offensive lineman from Ohio State. 239, Cody Lindenberg, linebacker from Minnesota. And 251, Yaya Black from Iowa. Now, I would be ecstatic with these first two picks for the Green Bay Packers. Azariah Thomas is flying up board. He's a very talented cornerback. He had an awesome Senior Bowl. And although PFF doesn't grade him as high, and a lot of the times you can snag him in the 3rd round, I truly do believe Azariah Thomas is going to raise up boards. And at the latest, will go early to mid 2nd round. Could even sneak into the 1st round like this mock draft here. And the Packers obviously have a need at cornerback. And if you take a look at Thomas's profile, a 6'2", 198-pound cornerback, still under 21 years old. Over the past couple of years, had some impressive grades, 76.4 in 2024, 75.0 in 2023. This last season only allowed 17 receptions on 33 targets for 141 yards, had an interception, only allowed a passer rating of 50.2, right? We see the coverage grade of 77.9, run defense grade, pretty solid, not the best, 66.0. He had 8 missed tackles, could definitely clean that up. Man coverage, 70.4, zone coverage, 72.7, and he's been pretty much only an outside cornerback, and that's what the Packers need to add. They need to add outside cornerbacks in this draft. What they do with Jaire Alexander is yet to be seen. Even if they keep Jaire, they still got to add another cornerback to compete with Carrington Valentine, compete with Keyshawn Nixon. They're likely not going to bring back Eric Stokes, which I think we're all okay with. But Azariah Thomas, as I said, PFF doesn't rank him as high. They have him ranked as the 84th best prospect, but he's been flying up boards. And if I heard his name called at 23, I know it's really early in the draft process, I'd be fine with it. As for Higgins, we've talked about him a lot. I think I drafted him in my latest mock draft in the 2nd round, and if we could snag him at 55 in the 2nd round, man, that would be an insane pick. 1,100 yards this last season on 87 receptions, mainly played outside, but has some versatility, has played in the slot. And the main thing with him, and we've talked about him a lot, so I'll make this quick, contested catch rate and ability to beat man coverage. Also a very low drop rate, 2.2%. Contested catch rate, 58.3%, and grade versus man coverage, 88.2. The Packers need more receivers that can beat man coverage, and that could easily start with Jaden Higgins in the 2nd round to be our prototypical X receiver, but also has some versatility. The guy that you can put there in the red zone, go up 1v1, go up in high point of football for Jordan Love and make some contested catches and beat man coverage consistently. In the 3rd round, he had us selecting Jordan Phillips, defensive lineman from Maryland. This isn't a player I've looked into too much. I know this defensive lineman class is loaded, so I'm sure if you're picking a defensive lineman in the 3rd round, it's likely a guy that would go in the 2nd round last year. 6'3", 320 pounds, a redshirt sophomore out of Maryland. We could see the amount of snaps he's played the past couple of years, nearly 500 snaps the past 2 seasons with some solid grades, 71.3, 71.8, good pass rush, solid run defense, really nice pass rush win rate at 10.5%, really solid run stop rate, 7.6%. He had 0 sacks, but it seems like more of a guy that's kind of a gap filler, run stopper type of player, which I'm fine the Packers getting. I would like to see a guy with a little bit more pass production or pass rush rush production. You know, the last 3 seasons we have 0 sacks, and I think the Packers need a defensive lineman that can kind of do it all. And I know you're getting a guy in the 3rd round here, and I'm sure he's a talented guy and, you know, can stop the run really well, fill gaps, which we do need with the potential loss of TJ Slayton. So if that happens, then yeah, you get a guy like this there in the 3rd round. But I would like to see some pass rush production. In the 4th round, he had us selecting Anthony Belton, tackle from NC State, a 6'6", 336-pound lineman. Now in the Senior Bowl, he did play some interior, and the Packers tend to always draft tackles and just move them inside, draft guys with some versatility. I think he is massive for a guard, but so is Mekhi Becton, and we've seen that worked for the Philadelphia Eagles. Great pass block grade last season, 87.2. Run block grade, 69.4. He allowed 3 sacks this last season, 2 sacks the season before that, and you can see all the snaps at left tackle. I wouldn't be mad with the Packers adding another lineman in the 4th round. I feel like the track record at that is just excellent. Then in the 5th round, he has us taking Quincy Riley, cornerback from Louisville, 6 foot, 195-pound corner, almost 24 years old, so a little bit more on the older side. And if you look at this year's grades, you're probably going, what are we doing here, right? But one thing I will say, this kind of feels like a Packers type of pick because of how great Riley was in 2023. And we know the Packers draft so many players that maybe didn't have a great 2024, but was really, really solid in 2023. Think Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, right? The list goes on. In 2023, an 85.9 overall grade. He allowed 23 receptions on 63 targets, 291 yards, only allowed 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, and a 37.2 passer rating allowed. Even in 2022, a 23.4 passer rating allowed. So it was a little bit higher this year, still pretty low at 73 because he had 2 interceptions, but mainly, again, an outside cornerback. I'd like to see if we did get 2 cornerbacks. I'm fine with getting 2 outside guys, but I feel like one of them should have a little bit of versatility. Like, all right, this guy played inside, outside, or mainly played outside last year, but 2 years ago he played some inside, right? So if we get 2 just outside corners, I'm okay with it. But again, I just feel like if we get 2 corners in this class, one of them should have some versatility. I'm just going to quickly go over these last 3 guys because I haven't dove down into late round guys too much yet. So I don't know much about these prospects, but I'll read the little excerpt at the bottom of each player. For Seth McLaughlin, it says, we don't know if Josh Myers is going to be back, so why not take another crack at Ohio State center? Hey, I'm about it. We'll see what the Packers do with Josh Myers. Cody Lindenberg, solid Senior Bowl, and definitely a guy I could see working his way up to play next to Cooper, plus Packers need the depth. Yeah, if they don't bring back Isaiah McDuffie, Eric Wilson, they definitely do need the depth. I still believe in Tyron Hopper a lot, but they would have to add another guy at that point. And then Yaya Black, defensive lineman from Iowa. We don't know what's going to happen with Wyatt and Slayton, so it only makes sense to double dip in one of the deepest positions of the draft. Yeah, I agree. If the defensive lineman's so deep, right, and you're getting a guy in the 3rd round, hey, why not get one in the 7th that maybe would be a 5th rounder the year prior? So that makes sense. The next mock draft submitted was by user AXOAZ on the Discord, and he has a 3-round mock draft here on PFF. And in the 1st round at 23, he has us selecting Walter Nolan, defensive lineman. We'll go over him in a second, but if we can get one of him or Kenneth Grant, I mean, I'm happy. Those are 2 guys that go right around that area. Both could go before the Packers, but there's a chance one of them could be available at 23. And if you don't select them, I'm sure the Vikings are going to take him at 24, which then you got to play the guy twice a year. So Maxwell Harrison at 55, a guy that's rising up boards at cornerback as well. And then at pick 87, he has us taking Kaimon Rucker, edge from North Carolina. Let's dive into the players. So we see Walter Nolan here on PFF as the 19th ranked prospect. So again, kind of falling right around where the Packers pick at 23, 6'3", 305 pounds, still 21 years old, played for Ole Miss, and we can see the killer season he had back in 2024. 587 defensive snaps with 6 sacks. That's also 7 sacks the year prior. You're getting a guy in the building that not only can defend the run, but knows how to get after the passer. And that's why I love both Kenneth Grant and Walter Nolan. Both of these guys have sky-high potential, and I'd be happy with either of them. It's just kind of, at this point, take your pick, right? 4 hits, 25 hurries, 2 batted passes. And then in terms of his grades, 75.0 pass rush grade, 91.6 run defense grade, a pass rush win rate of 10.9%, and a run stop rate of 11.9%. You can see the percentiles in the far right there. That's how good he is compared to other players. I'd be all aboard taking Walter Nolan at pick 23 if he's available. I think I have him slightly above Kenneth Grant, so I think he'll go before Kenneth Grant. But if for some reason he's there at 23, I'd say run the card up. Maxwell Harrison is a guy that has been rising up boards, 6'1", 186 pounds, kind of right around that weight zone where you're like, would the Packers be interested in this guy? But just like the cornerback Riley out of Louisville we just went over, this kind of feels like a Packers type of player due to, the great season in 2023, maybe a little bit of a down year in 2024. We see in 2024, 12 receptions allowed, still not high there. I mean, we're talking 12 receptions allowed, but that's only in 7 games played. So I guess he dealt with some injuries there. 262 yards, no touchdowns allowed, had an interception, 78.2. So you're really banking on what you saw from 2023 with Maxwell Harrison, which was a very solid season. 44 receptions allowed, a little bit high there, but 432 yards, allowed 3 touchdowns, but had 5 interceptions. So a ball hawk. 67.5 quarterback rating allowed, mainly an outside corner, actually really just only an outside cornerback. So another guy that you're going to bring in, he's going to compete with Carrington Valentine, compete with Keyshawn Nixon. You're getting him in the second round and very well could become, a starting outside cornerback for your defense. For the final pick in his 3-round mock draft, he had us selecting Kymon Rucker, edge from North Carolina, 6'2", 262 pounds, 23 years old, and has a couple of great seasons, actually 3 straight seasons, really, getting after the quarterback. And this last season only played in 8 games, but the prior 2 seasons, 13 games, 14 games. But what's impressive, in only 8 games, he had 6 sacks, 5 quarterback hits, 20 quarterback hurries. Back in 2023, he had 8 sacks. In 2022, he had 5 sacks. This guy's had 3 straight years of getting after the quarterback. You can see a pass rush grade of 81.2. Not a solid run defense grade, 60.7, but really, really high run stop rate at 8.5%. That's what I like to look at these a little bit more, the percentages rather than just the grades. Pass rush win rate at 18.1%. Just a certified get after the quarterback type of guy. You add him to the rotation of Lucas Van Ness, Kingsley Enagbare, Brenton Cox Jr., who really stepped up there in the back half of 2024. Maybe the Packers go out and sign a free agent or trade for a guy as well. You can never have enough guys to rush the passer. So getting a pass rusher in the 3rd round, I'm all about. And just load up those defensive trenches, right? You went Walter Nolan in the 1st pick. You go Kymon Rucker in the 3rd round, man. Just load up that defensive line. Build it like the Philadelphia Eagles, right? Where you can send 4, get after the quarterback, drop 7, play coverage with your guys in the back end. So I really like this pick, and I really do like this mock draft. For the 3rd mock draft, it's from user Otylerm on the Discord, and I believe he's using NFL Draft Buzz here, which is a site that's great for looking up prospects for his mock draft. And for the 1st pick, he has Jade Barron, who is my first ever mock draft pick this season. In the 2nd round, we have Donovan E. I'm not going to pronounce the last name. Anyone in the chat that's a Boston College fan, let me know. I'm sure I'll get it down at some point. In the 3rd round, we have Savion Williams, wide receiver from TCU. A lot of people are circling Savion Williams, saying, hey, the Packers need to get this guy. In the 4th round, Chris Paul Jr. at linebacker. And in the 5th round, defensive tackle, CJ West. So I'll quickly go over Barron because we already did in one of my mock drafts. That's a guy that has a ton of versatility, mainly played outside corner this season, but the past season he played nickel, or the past 2 seasons, should I say. He's also played some deep safety. A lot of people aren't so intrigued by him transitioning into an outside corner at the NFL level. They think he'll be more of a nickel, maybe even a safety, which the Packers obviously don't need. So I can see why some people are like, hey, we don't need Jade Barron. I think he'll be fine at outside cornerback at the NFL level. Coverage grade 91.1, run defense 83.3, zone 91.7. He only allowed a pass rating of 34.2, had 5 interceptions, 0 touchdowns allowed in 2024. In the 2nd round, he had us drafting Donovan E. from Boston College, 6'2", 247 pounds, 21 years old, and man, look at these stats. I mean, they speak for themselves. The guy had 14 sacks last season. Not only this, played under defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley. So this is definitely a guy that I'm sure is on the Packers big board. And if he's sitting there in round 2 and the Packers have yet to get a pass rusher, I mean, this is a guy right here that could definitely feel like a Green Bay Packer. And I'm going to have to learn that last name. 766 defensive snaps last year is a ton. That's like Max Crosby levels, a guy that you have to have out there because he's so damn good, right? 14 sacks this last season, 90.5 pass rush grade, 83.6 run defense grade, pass rush win rate of 18.2%, and a run stop rate of 10.1%. Man, how is this guy honestly not ranked higher? He's ranked 35th. So for him to fall to 54 would be a little bit wild in my opinion, given those stats. So with the Packers have to trade up in the second round to get him, but we'll see. Obviously, we're so far away from the draft, so depicting where guys are going to go right now, obviously so much is going to change, but getting this guy in the second round, I'd be all for. In the third round, he had us selecting Savion Williams, wide receiver from TCU, 6'5", 225 pounds. Now, I believe the Packers need to bring in a guy like this, big-bodied receiver, 6'5", 220 plus, guy that can win 1v1 matchups, and you can see the contested catch rate is absolutely insane, 88.9%. But man, first off, 11.8 drop rate percent, and he's a receiver from TCU. I mean, that's a tall receiver from TCU with a ton of talent. I mean, this is Quentin Johnston, right? I know he's a lot different than Quentin Johnson. I believe he also played like wildcat quarterback for them and ran the ball, and he's a gadget type of player. I get that. 18 missed tackles forced, but I don't know. I just can't get over like the Quentin Johnston type receiver, or even just a receiver from TCU. There's also Jalen Reagor from TCU. So it's hard for me to get over that. And I feel like there's just other options such as Trey Harris in the third round that I'd just much rather have. That's a more polished wide receiver overall. I mean, Savion had 611 yards this past season, 6 touchdowns on 60 receptions. I think he's a talented guy for sure. Obviously, you see that with how they utilize him in that offense. But man, that drop rate just scares me, considering how many drops we suffered last season. The contested catch rate is absolutely insane, but grade versus man coverage, 63.8. I'm not too big on it, and I think he's going to fall for that reason. We'll see, but I wouldn't be too happy with a third-round pick here of Savion Williams. I know I'll probably going against, the grain here, and a lot of people like this guy, but I don't know. The TCU just red flags me for some reason. In the third round, he had us selecting Chris Paul Jr. From Ole Miss, one of my favorite linebackers in this class. And if we can snag this guy in the third round, that's an absolute steal. 6'1", 235, 22 years old. We can see the type of season he had last season. 87.2 overall grade in 12 games. He had 73 tackles, only 4 missed tackles. This guy is one of the better tacklers in college ball. 83.9 pass rush grade, run defense 84.6, coverage grade 78.1. A very well-rounded linebacker, can definitely play the mic for you. Missed tackle rate very low, 4.5%. Coverage stops, he had 19. Run stops, he had 35. He allowed 27 receptions on 33 targets, 81.8 completion percentage. Allowed a touchdown, but had an interception. Forced incompletions 4, and a passer rating allowed of 93.2, which is actually pretty low for linebackers, considering a lot of the time it's a check down to a running back or tight end where that passes, 99% of the time being completed. That's a pretty low passer rating allowed for a linebacker. I said it earlier in this video, if we don't bring back McDuffie and Eric Wilson, the Packers are obviously going to need to add a linebacker. And if Chris Paul's sitting there in the third round, why not add yet another third-round linebacker? Then you have Edgerrin Cooper, Quay Walker, Tyron Hopper, and Chris Paul Jr. That's a super, super solid linebacker room for sure. The final pick in that mock draft was CJ West, defensive lineman from Indiana, 6'2", 317 pounds. The last 3 seasons, super, super solid. 420 snaps this last season, 468 the season before that. Played in 13 games, 83.6 overall grade. Had a sack this year, 2 sacks last year. Great run defender, 88.1 run defense grade with an 11.4 run stop rate, but also knows how to get after the passer and did a good job at it. 10.2 pass rush win rate. Man, this defensive lineman class is absolutely loaded. The fact that this was a guy like mocked in the 5th round, whatever platform, and even on PFF is the 156th ranked prospect is just crazy to me. The Packers need to double dip at defensive line. I think that's the main thing we're seeing with all these mock drafts. Like, go get a couple defensive linemen in this draft. Even if you get one in the first round, get another in the 4th and 5th round and really just rebuild this defensive line to get after the passer, just sending 4. And that's how you do it, by adding guys in this draft, because it is absolutely loaded. And I would be totally okay with the Packers adding multiple guys in the top 5 rounds. So that does it for the first ever Mock the Mock episode, Green Bay Packers edition, where we take a look at your guys' mock drafts that you post on my Packers Discord, link down in the description. If you guys enjoyed this type of video, please leave a like down below and also comment. It tells me, hey, continue doing this type of thing. I obviously want to take a look at your guys' mock drafts as well and not just go over mine. That's why I wanted to create this series. Reminder to go check out BetUS and use code YouTube150 at sign up. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. And as always, go Pack Go.